Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
All right, folks, it's the Alex Jones Show. I am Jason Burmis, sitting in for the week. And, I hope you go to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv and get a hard copy of Fabled Enemies and make 10 copies and hand them out. Or get a hard copy of Alex Jones's Endgame and get 10 copies and hand them out. Hold a screening, get the information out there. Because it's through human communication that we're able to relay these ideas, and people actually do start to think for themselves. They do question things. And that's what we need now more than ever when we have a president coming into office that expects sacrifice and service. When you have Rahm Emanuel coming in saying that he is for mandatory conscription of 18 to 25-year-olds. And now you have this new book being published called Grits. This guy's been on the trail now for 2+ years talking about conscription, Tom Blankley out of the Washington Times, and it's all about programming you to be for it. And I'm worried about it. A lot of people are behind Obama, and like I said, especially when I'm in New York and I'm going through the mall, and I just see shirt after shirt and hat after hat of Obama or Yes We Can, and these aren't election shirts. These are like fashionable, like hip-hop style jackets, shirts, like $35 hats. The culture is being brainwashed. All right, let's go back to Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America. Larry, why don't you tell people how they can get this information? What's the website and the number? And then I'd like you to tell me, why is it so hard for a New Yorker to get a carry and conceal permit as opposed to these other states? I mean, I've often wondered why it is that my buddy who was in the National Guard couldn't get a carry and conceal permit once he got back from Iraq.
Well, gunowners.org is where you're going to find the information about what we're up to at the federal level, the congressional lobbying that we're doing, particularly to draw people's attention to the alerts that we keep a log of the current ones right there on the home page. So when you go to gunowners.org, you'll be able to see the things that we're working on, the things of concern, and what people can do about it with a few easy clicks, sending off email to their senators, their representatives, whatever is the appropriate recipient here in Washington. In New York, you've had something that went on the books relatively early in this country, a Sullivan Act. In my mind, it has a rather ironic history. The name Sullivan might suggest correctly that the namesake is Irish. It was an Irish state senator, Sullivan, who was importuned by some of his criminal constituents, the Irish mafia, as it were, that they didn't like the influx of these Italian mafia coming in from southern Europe, and they were basically hitting on the turf of the fellas that were already there, and they didn't like it. And so they, in the name of crime control, the constant handmaiden of these scallywag politicians. In the name of crime control, they enacted the Sullivan Act, targeting, basically, even though the language was general, targeting these Italian mafia that needed to be controlled. Well, it shows that even crooks can be stupid. Here they are, willing to break the law 6 waves from Sunday, and they assume that a gun control law is going to disarm their opponents. But when the politicians worded it, naturally they worded it as a general matter so that persons and people and citizens of New York, so forth, were the targets. And the initial impetus behind the law has been long forgotten. And instead of the Italian mafia being the target, now it's the free citizenry being the target, which is the way politicians really like it. And there just hasn't been the horsepower to back it off. We had you can find similar laws in other states that have actually been pushed back. Virginia had one that for years was being applied in a very arbitrary fashion by local judges. And even though, for instance, Oliver North was able to show that terrorist Abu Nidal actually had a contract out on his life, the courts decided, right before an election that he was running for Senate, you might say, that he wasn't a person of good enough character to be able to get a concealed carry permit. Well, after that fiasco, We got then State Senator Virgil Goode, who later went on to serve with distinction in the U.S. House of Representatives, to change the concealed carry law so that discretion was taken away from these judges. That's something that needs to be done and would help enormously in New York. If you just made it into the kind of law you have in Virginia, it wouldn't be quite as good for other reasons, but it would help enormously. If you go in, you make your application, they can't prove that you're a crook or some other disqualified person. They gotta give you the permit, and that's what we did to take it away from the judges in Virginia. We've just never been able to do that in New York.
Yeah, New York's a tough one. Larry, in the next 90 seconds, why don't you tell gun owners out there, people who are pro-Second Amendment, what they can do today to help ensure their gun rights for the future?
Well, I think it's important that the people not stop speaking out. If the politicians think we've gone away, they're going to just be all the more unaccountable and unconcerned about the opinion of folks back home. There's been a reluctance so far on the part of Democrats in particular to initiate anti-gun legislation unless they can get the NRA to support it, thus baptizing it, making it respectable, not even really gun control, as long as it has that kind of across the spectrum support. Mm-hmm. And we've got to make enough noise that no matter what the NRA does, the politicians will understand that they're still playing with fire, the same fire that burned them in 1994 when the Democrats lost control of the Congress over the gun issue, and when Al Gore lost the presidency over the gun issue. Now, the Republicans need to hear from folks at home as much as the Democrats, because the Republicans have never figured out that if it hurts their opponents, then it would benefit Republicans to make their opponents vote on it. That's something that is going to be harder in this Congress because the rules are not favorable and they're not changing them in our favor. But nevertheless, the Republicans need to hear from folks who don't agree with what they're. I mean, Orrin Hatch right now is the guy that's selling out the cause on trying to fight Eric Holder's nomination as Attorney General. Orrin Hatch has already broken ranks with the small Republican caucus, and if we don't have his vote, we won't be able to, unless we can get a Democrat from somewhere, mount an opposition to Eric Holder through a filibuster threat. Thank you very much, Orrin Hatch, the, quote, conservative from Utah.
Well, Larry, it's politics as usual in my mind. They say one thing and they do another. I thank you so much for joining us. It's Gun Owners of America.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold for your IRA? The financial industry refuses to recognize the value of real hard assets for your retirement. The truth be told, gold and silver has outperformed paper investments like stocks, bonds, and CDs, yet no word about IRAs. Perhaps the financial institutions want to maintain control of your assets by keeping you in paper. If you'd like to take a look at gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low return on your paper investments. Call 800-686-2237. Make sure that you secure your future. Call 800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.